section to understand, to think like a Pythagorean, so you can understand where this is going. Relatively, Pythagoras believed that everything was basically, God was zero, the perfect circle. Everything that you of all understanding was within the circle. What was everything beyond? But the most we could understand what's in the circle. If we understand the circumference between the outer and the dot, which we call our cosm, this being the microcosm and anything outside the macrocosm, are all fundamentally the same. Going back to the 6 circles, because you can see 6 circles once it's falling into itself and the 7 become 8. In essence, the same thing is happening on the outside. This is just one of the circles inside thing, and theoretically you can say within the dot is just this dot here with 7 more circles concentrically going at the same time. So simply, let's just cut to one dot first. First, the way we work it, we have to think fundamentally if we just had an electron in a magnetic space or a field, the farthest it could go is its field, its relative distance, or its force, inertia, whatever you want to call it. But basically, we'll explain that the width of that will be the first division, and that creating the 2, or the perfect 1 that can now be defined with it between the 2. But fundamentally, the shapes as manifested don't start until 3, 4, 5, and 6 end up being those shapes. But beyond that, the 7 is technically in, because once you hit the center, you're back at the dot, and things expand from that or are moving. Now to cut short, we'll go up to this symbol. But let me more explanation on that. Maybe I'll come back to that. But the first thing we want to understand, as going back to a sacred symbol, let's see the Star of David. If we take the Star of David and we put the Key of Solomon, do I have the Key of Solomon? Now the Key of Solomon is the lines, the 3 keys, or the 4 keys over it. If you place that within the Star of David is Father, the Son is Solomon, you put that in there, and you assume that these lines are the liar and the thief, and this is the true cross. Now this is important because these lines, if you try to use this in the calculation, will mess you up. So they are the liar and the thief that will hide the truth. But once you remove those, well, if you draw this, you can get the intersection, you get the new point, and you can draw a second flower of life and get the new coordinates. Now you have what's called as the Ala Minerva, also, or you have the bat as well. Some could refer to this as the Brahma or the Shiva. But if you look at it this way, you have an owl, eyes wide open. Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Open, also relating to that, or the eyes shut. But there's also a mythical story of the owl and the bat. How did what was it? The Romans take over Greece? Well, there's a simple story that there were like the owl and the bat. How did the bat get into the owl's head? Well, when the I think Disney did a story of the bat that devised the plan to sit on his skull and bones, and when the owl swoops in like a shark, it has to close its eyes when it opens its mouth. But it also opens its mind. So when the eyes are closed and it swoops in to swallow the skull and bones, the bat jumped on the owl's head. And when the owl opened its eyes, the bat said that rat was just skin and bones. And the owl said, "Woo!" But it relates to how do we interpret? Are we lost in duality and we can't see in between the lines? But now why does it go on to the 6? You see, if it expands out 7 odd numbers, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it's basically odd. The dot can't be centered. But if you notice, if you look at this like a little face, just to make it simple, if these are eyes, you can watch how this face is moving through the thing and then expanding into a 4, and you could look onto it there and it's expanding. Now this, you can see 3 triangles in the well, infinity, which we'll go back to vortex math in a moment. But now you can see it forms 2 planes of division as then it breaks. Or if you look at this one, also referred to the diamond heart, you can see the small in the mind. If you look at that like an alien, the mind is breaking in 2, symbolizes duality. But then you can see now that the 2 become 4. if you can see the 2 faces and 4. Now 13 only is technically in the center. And realistically, this is 13. It's actually 14 because the 1 is just a representation shining through of the none. So you have the 1 and the 0 on 12. That's 14. But now to use that in a quick mathematical process, trisect any angle. Oh, where's my ruler? You have it. I guess I can use a flat edge. They say without any measurement marking, so I guess I could do that. It would be a little bit more legit.
Oh, so
I had a ruler. So there it is. But take any 2 lines and draw the lines there. Now the first thing to do to trisect this is we're going to have to find the perpendicular. To find the perpendicular, put our compass on the center. And to get this on, perfection is going to be the most important part. Now, once we got these, we can find where a perpendicular bisector is. Now we need to connect this point to this point, which now we have a perpendicular to this line, and we also have created a little triangle. Maybe I better check that I didn't do a 45 right on the money just to be sure. Let's see, we have a 10, 20, 34, so we got a 68 degree. It looked like it was a little close to a perfect triangle, so make anyone think I was cheating. Now, once I get that, I want to draw a perfect circle, not within the lines, but within that as the top point. And this is the top point. Now, once I have that one, keep the compass on the same spot and draw. This is a simplified formula. It was much more complex to figure out, but I reduced it down to these simple steps here. And once you do these, you're basically creating the same pattern, but realistically it's the 24-point star that I'm theoretically working with. Now once I have this done, the points that I want are this, 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 not this, 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 and this. Slightly off there, so it doesn't mess me up too much. It's generally good enough that gives you some, you'll see you're allowed a little bit of variance if you truly do it right. So next one, I joined this line. We did the points to the outer ones. Now we do the top ones to where we connected those ones. Now at this point, I'm actually phiing this circle. In essence, when I say phiing, PHI. Now, this is our interest here, here, and relative to this point. Now, I've seen others that have been very close that have done this point, but that would be dissecting the angle, not the angle of degrees. So to make the conversion is actually very, very simple. the fundamental understanding why it works may be a little bit more complex, but I was going to draw like that. Now, if you notice, if you draw this on a 360 though, you'll actually, it self-corrects as you go around, and you know you did it right when they hit boom right on the other side. You have a perfect division, eliminating all fractions. Right there. Yeah, slightly off. Few points I'm slightly a hair off, but we'll see where we're at. So we got the points are this line, this line, this line, this line. Let's see where we're at. Well, technically, we could do a real simple 68 divided by 3. We want 22.666667. So we have 10, 11, and what does that look like? A third or somewhere in there? 11, just over things. So we got 22 and somewhere just over 2/3. So 66.667. Would that be somewhere in the realm of there? And if I was a better drawer, I probably could have got better on than that. But it becomes even interesting. Now, if you do now you can draw a pentagram, on with like any of these other flowers. Alright, maybe I should go back to this and explain the purpose of this. If I was a Freemason, what I could do, something like this. Also too, with something like this, now you have a wheel that you can draw. So you can take any circle. If you notice, this is also the checkerboard pattern inside. Not only checkerboards, but each square is also a checkerboard, a Pythagorean triangle related to each triangle. So you don't have squares squaring it, but squares are squaring each other relative to a perfect Pythagorean triangle, which is giving you a phi relationship to the next square up, and to the next square up, and then to the bigger square. But within that, you also will notice that you have endless triangles on top of itself. So you have a framework of triangles. So you have the checkerboard of triangles as well, as relating to the circles, because now I've shown you, you have the circles within circles as well. But the only thing you can't have is your points here, because the pentagram of moving it to find pentagons, you can only trace it with inside, but not on the 3 levels of the wheels. If you want to refer to it as the wheels Ezekiel, as it's also known. But once you can draw a 30 point by trisecting the diagonal, you also get this figure here. Now you have, add those together with the pentagon. So you have the hypercube in the middle, but now you have a hyper diamond, giving birth to hypercubes concentrically to all shapes within circles. But also, if you read this like a clock, this also reveals the secret recipe that Pythagoras used to cook up numbers, because all numbers related to shape. So in essence, he could count now by the 5s and relate it to the 6, because now this is the 6 is the vibration, and the 5 is the manifestation of vibration. So now he's basically taken control of his little electron in the field